God is indeed all that. Understanding that I don't know what to call this chapter. Let's call it Tech versus God. Not the kind of title I would usually use. Definitely doesn't come from any kind of quote out of the chapter, but that's what came to mind. So let's work with it. Understanding that in verse 1, it's talking about things that sound old to us, but they seem to represent the war technology of the time, as God is going to issue another woe to Judah as they are looking to another big brother type figure to bail them out of a jam. Verse 1 reading, woe to those who go down to Egypt for help and rely on horses, who trust in chariots because they are many, and horsemen because they are very strong. But do not look to the Holy One of Israel or consult the Lord, as verse 2 is going to go on and talk about the ways in which God deals with the integrity of an individual. And even though their technology may seem intimidating to us, he flat out doesn't care. Why? Because he's going to talk about the way in verses 2 and 3, he is not only going to deal with those who do evil, but those who help them. Understanding that he promises that the Egyptians will come to nothing. And likewise in verse 3, the helper will stumble and he who is helped will fall, and they will all perish together. As he will go on to talk about in verses 4 and 5, the way he is going to help Judah personally, meaning he is not simply going to help them from afar, but he is going to fight like a lion in their midst, but not simply in their midst. He's going to hover over them as though we had drone cover or air cover in a battle. He's going to hover like birds over the city to provide them help from within and from above. As he goes on in the final 3 verses to call them to turn back to the one who can really provide them the help that they are looking for. Literally saying in verse 6, turn to him from whom people have deeply revolted, as he is going to talk about the way in which the Assyrian, from whom the people of Judah are seeking protection and refuge, are going to fall by a sword not of man. Reminding me of, probably above anything, the way in which God's vengeance is so much better than mine. Why? One, for a practical matter. I don't know anything about technology. There are plenty of things in the tech realm that are above me. And so from a very practical perspective, the technology, as we already mentioned, that intimidates me is nothing to God. He knows, as we've said from time to time in the assembly, the key or the hack to every system, things that are above my pay grade. Moreover, from a more human perspective, there are times when I get so angry that I get gassed up until I realize it's different actually facing an opponent. And so some of the things I might not have accounted for when I was planning out my vengeance that fall in the face of real combat, they don't scare God. And so I don't run the risk of running up on a fight that I wasn't really ready for, because he is always ready for whatever's in front of him. And then finally, when I am ready to speak a word of judgment against an individual, forgetting the ways in which that very same word of judgment may fit me, he prevents me from actually condemning myself in the way I seek to condemn others. This chapter reminding me of the ways in which, if I can, in those moments of frustration, simply calm down to realize the way in which God is built for battle against the greatest technology, whether it is a real military foe or just the keyboard warriors. And just as much the way he can save me from the keyboard warrior in me. Then God willing, once again, I may be able to spare myself a great deal of unnecessary drama.